Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's now time to move on to the very first panel discussion at NASSCOM AI Confluence 2024 on the topic Indian language models, a data, compute, and AI models collaborative approach towards linguistic inclusion. Join me in welcoming our session chair for the session, Mr. Sujay Bhattacharya, and speaking of him, the Senior Vice President, Global Head, Digital Workplace Services, Employee Experience, Automation, NTT Data, and an expert in AI and data analytics. Let's give a big round of applause to welcome him on dais. Joining him for the session, let me take the honor of welcoming you, the dignitaries. Dr. Vishnu Vardhan, the founder and CEO, Visi Multi-Omics at Visi. Please give him a big round of applause as we welcome on dais Dr. Vishnu Vardhan. Mr. Jigar Halani, Director, Solution Architect and Engineer at NVIDIA. Audience, let's welcome the panelists with a big round of applause. Mr. Kartheek Kumar, Trust and Safety at NextWealth. Ms. Lakshmi Ramachandran, the Head of Engineering and Country Lead at Cerebras System. On stage, we have the esteemed set of panelists who would be discussing on the topic Indian language models, a data, compute, and AI model collaborative approach towards the linguistic inclusion. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big round of applause to welcome our esteemed panelists onto the dais. I request our session chair, Mr. Sujay Bhattacharya, to kindly take it further. Thank you.
So good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of all of us, we are extremely delighted to have this panel discussion. And I would want to thank Mr. Sunil because I don't think we could have had a better introduction to this panel discussion in what he just said. We're going to discuss about the challenges about India languages and Indic languages in LLM. But what you just heard from Sunil is this is where the future is in terms of the adoption, in terms of the growth. So, when I was doing some research as to what should be my opening line on challenge, we've got 22 languages that are recognized by the government. But when I did a research on the number of dialects, I got a range from 1,800 dialects to 1,300 dialects. So I really don't know what the right number is, but I'm pretty confident it's northwards of 1,000 dialects in India. And that poses such a big challenge because I heard Anshul talk about voice and just the dialects that can bring challenges into this model. So we'll kickstart this panel discussion. So Dr. Vishnu, I'll start with you. Do you believe that these Indian language, the large language models will truly impact the growth and inclusion of India, given the different demography?
Yeah, when we started building Hanooman, our first use case was, can we take generative AI to 80% of the people, or even 85% I can say, who can't speak English? English is a big barrier. All of us sitting here because we can speak good English. People who are outside are the people who don't speak English. So that's a big barrier. And this has never crossed more than 10-15% in last 50 years of technology. Generative AI can really break that barrier, but we have to build large language models or small language models or any models in Indian languages. And the problem and the advantage is, like so many languages, it's not like I can bring one model and then start, it will apply for whole India, it won't work. In South itself, I have to build like 5 different models. And in that again comes your dialect problem, like Telugu is spoken. We are working on Telugu language model. So when we did that work, we found that each district, like 50 kilometers, there is a change in accent, there is a change in dialect. And it goes so different that sometimes it even looks like a different language, though it's all called Telugu. So it's a challenge, which is one of the biggest challenge for generative AI technology itself to crack. And but it also provides a huge opportunity where India can become a model country or get this work done, because there are so many countries who also need this kind of opportunity. Like I work with Japan, so there is a huge requirement for it because everything has to be translated in Japanese, whether it is science, technology, medicine, everything. And English models can't do that. So somebody who knows that, or a company who knows that, or if you build that technology, then it's so easy to crack the whole non-English language world. So that's what we are trying to, we started building for India. Now I get opportunity to build for Japan. There is like 2 other SAARC countries who are interested. So we are We're launching something for Sinhalese like next month. So that's the opportunity, but this is the challenge. So both are there. And if India doesn't do it, I don't think any other country can do it, because we are the only country which has such a diverse population and so many engineers to do that, the manpower to do that. And thanks to Sunil, I always take his name whenever I speak, even if he is not there sitting in front of me. He has cracked the infrastructure, and we are trying to crack the software on it.
Perfect. So, you bring up good point. I'm sure data collection, how you treat the data curation, and also the human loop in this entire piece is very challenging. There are opportunities in India. So, Kartheek, I'll bring you into this. What do you see as the challenges from a data collection, data curation, and the human side of it?
Like Doctor talked about.
I'm not sure your mic is working. Yeah.
Is working? Yeah. Okay. Like Doctor talked about, a lot of language models available right now, not in text.
I don't think he's audible.
Better now? Yeah. Sorry. Okay, like Doctor mentioned, right? A lot of the models available right now are not built for the Indian context. Right, from a data perspective, right? To give you an example of the, look at our counterparts in English, right? Look at models like Llama or ChatGPT, right? These are trained on billions of, data points, and they still face the issue of bias and hallucination, which are, one of the critical issues with these large language models right now. And looking at it in the Indian context, we have much less data. Right? So our problems are 100x, 1000x magnified in the context that in order for you to build a robust model for Indic languages, you need data, which is going to tie everything, you've heard, in this conference so far about infrastructure, about, building models together. All of that is going to be tied together by how good your data is. And that is going to define how robust your models are going to be. And that's the challenge in the Indian context, because there's not enough good data available. Right now, a lot of the information is being crowdsourced, but there are challenges with that as well. It might provide you the quantity of data required, but there are challenges with ensuring the quality of what you're getting. It might get you started, put your best foot forward, but going forward, right? Once you see consumption and once you want to start. Once this starts taking off, you want to start build your robust data pipelines. There are multiple ways to do this. One of the ways that we at NextWealth sort of contribute to this is, providing the human in the loop element, which is basically a lot of annotators, moderators, providing you, with really good annotated labeled data for you to, train your models on. While incorporating those cultural nuances, context, dialects, right? While on top of that, also making sure the quality is the best we can provide, right? So that's where, that's the kind of work we do, and that's where the challenge is. I think we're just getting started, but as this takes off, data is going to come to the foreground even more than it has been so far. And we're going to start seeing those additional challenges of how to collect this data, how to make sure data is at the right quality, and not just collecting any generic data, but collecting data that is more to a specific use case, more to a specific domain, more to a specific service area, right? So all of these challenges are going to start trickling in, and that's something people will look to solve for. Yeah. So
good. You brought up a good point, Kartheek. Thanks. Is the human side? Everywhere that I've at least seen these discussions, there's always a question about, are people going to lose jobs? But the reality is, till we get to that matured or to that developed stage, there is a opportunity for it to actually create a lot of jobs within the society. But Dr. Vishnu, I wanted to pull you in on one point. Is you're in this business from a B2C, B2B standpoint. How do you see these models hallucinating? Right? How do you tackle the problem of hallucination of these models today?
Hallucination is not even a problem. It's part and parcel of large language models, because when you train a model on like trillions of tokens and you ask something, obviously it will answer, right? It won't say I don't know until unless I have put a guardrail to say that don't answer this point. So I don't even take hallucination as a problem, but as a part and parcel of what large language models are. So what is the other way of reducing it, creating more precise models, is to work on specific domains. Because if I'm like we work on healthcare, and I work on some multiomics, which is genomics. So it has to be super precise. It can't go around even 0.1%. So for that, it's a different approach we take. Usually, build smaller models which are more trained in that specific data sets. Example, the one we built for multiomics has only multiomics data set. It doesn't have anything like normally what. So that's the approach we have again taken for the languages also, because if you take a large language model which has 99% English representation and then put little bit of tokens of other languages, it's going to hallucinate. It's going to be very, very generic, or it can lose the context. The models we are building is like small English representation, more or less equal representation of Indian languages, so that it's small also. So deployment is easy, cheaper, the tokens are cheaper, and most importantly, it brings on all those problems. But as he was saying, like, he asked me this question, like, how is it going to work for healthcare? How is it going to work for a very specific use case? That's a challenge, again, we have to solve, because English has virtually all the knowledge in the world. So if it is a Telugu model, will it solve that problem, right? Or else I have to only use it for a generic use case. So this is a challenge which is work in progress.
So that brings a good point, and Lakshmi, I'll bring you in. How do you train the foundation models to meet these challenges of so many languages, so many dialects? So can you speak on that?
Sure. Can you hear me?
Yes, I mean, I can, but.
Can you hear me? Thank you. So in addition to some of the challenges that Vishy mentioned, there are a number of technical challenges in getting to a real solution to a multilingual model that can perform tasks effectively and be evaluated against standard benchmarks. One of this is to get the right structuring of the multilingual data, cross-lingual data, and sometimes you have to have text which is very close in meaning and structure to the original English. The second challenge is the ratio in which you mix the languages. For example, when we at Cerebras worked on JICE, the Arabic English model, it, by the way, is the world's best Arabic English model, and it's actually on Hugging Face and deployed on Azure. This required mixing it in a certain ratio, English, Arabic, and code. So this gave us the best results, and it could be different ratios for various Indic languages. We're starting to work on Indic languages as well. Now, the next step would be to actually apply ML techniques and algorithms to make the model, the multilingual model, perform well on standard benchmarks. And this requires quick experimentation, hyperparameter tuning, and applying algorithms to come up with the right solution. So these are some of the challenges in addition to the data quality and the quantity itself.
So specifically speaking from the Indic languages, do you see India is posing a lot more challenges given the dialects or even given the digital literacy, though we are perhaps one of the best in digital literacy, but the adoption of applications to all these different languages, that itself is also a challenge. So how does this become real? Because when I look at this from how would my earlier generation adapt this, right? I don't see my mom being comfortable in anything other than Facebook and WhatsApp, right? So how do I make her comfortable in a Bengali language? Or how do I make her use that in some critical?
I think having multilingual applications will highly democratize science and technology to every kind of section in our society. And for this, I think first getting to multilingual models and solutions through fine-tuning or continuous pre-training. In some cases, or in many cases actually, the cultural biases, the socio-cultural biases need to be taken care of. And for this, you need large, good quality data in Indic languages to be trained, continuously pre-trained or trained from scratch. And I think this is the path to making it easily accessible and adopted.
And thank you, Lakshmi. And Karthik, I'll still bring you into this is because you're running so much of human in the loop piece. So how do you manage this from an India perspective? What are the challenges or what are the opportunities that you're seeing?
Yeah. From from what we've seen in our work so far,
I don't think they can hear you. Can you hear him?
yeah. Let's hold it. Yeah. Okay. So what we've seen so far, right? There's a lot of work required in the sense, like you said, providing good quality data requires, and with the cultural nuances and the different dialects present, you really need a workforce that sort of that sort of can give you that kind of data, good quality data, right? The challenges we see right now are exactly doing that. There's no standardized process of actually providing good quality annotated data in these in these languages. What you speak is not what you write, and vice versa. What you write is not what you speak, right? When we actually try to hire people and say, hey, you know what, we want you to generate good quality prompts in a certain language, what they write is not exactly the ideal form of writing something in that language, right? And when you try to collect voice data, what they speak is not exactly, there's a lot of colloquialism, etc. So from a challenge perspective, yes, this is something yet to be figured out, but what we have as NextWealth are poised to do is we are spread across India. We have 11 centers across India, hiring people from tier 2, tier 3 towns, providing them this as an opportunity where they can contribute to something big, something as huge as the AI/ML revolution happening right now, where they can contribute their skill sets, something as simple as contributing their voice, contributing their understanding of their language, and helping them build this infrastructure. And I think from a process perspective, it's yet to be figured out to a large extent, but from a setting up for what's to come, I think we're slowly getting there, baby steps, making sure our presence is felt across, making sure we're able to contribute to all those cultural nuances and language dialects and provide that information as best as we can to help you train these models and get to the best possible version of themselves. So I think, that's where the challenges are.
Perfect. Thanks, Karthik. I'll pick up the word infrastructure because I'll bring Jigar you into this conversation now. I think to a large extent, Sunil has gone to solve that problem, but still this will require a lot of infrastructure, a lot of compute power. So from your vantage point, what do you see that as a challenge or an opportunity in this context? No.
Audible? Okay, good. Firstly, thank you for inviting here, and thanks to NASScom team as well. I'm Indian first, then NVIDIan, right? So resource constraint is the paramount thing that we have seen it in every segment since at least I have grown up. I know now we have seen digital penetration, the roads are getting constructed. Finally, thanks to Yota and many others who have been trying to put the infrastructure for AI as well, which is coming in play. To me, the most important thing is the infrastructure that I'm trying to bring in, is it not just designed to work for AI, but also to help me with my workloads of different categories, which are there from past, are getting innovated today, or are present today, and what's going to come up in the future are going to support. Right? So building upon that, and taking some of the things that my co-panelist just talked about it, we're a low resource language country. Everybody accepted. We are in dearth of not having the data sets for these languages essentially, right? How do we make these data sets available? One of the best way to make those data sets, and that's where NVIDIA has really put in a lot of efforts to help the low resource languages across the world, is to do machine translation, right? You transfer it from English to Hindi, or Hindi to Bengali, or Bengali to Gujarati, and then of course, we still need human in loop, but that infrastructure needs to support that. Even machine translation needs compute infrastructure. Then comes building these foundation models, right? Again, you need something that is at scale, has not just the compute infrastructure, but the network, but the scalability aspect of it, and the entire software stack that can help you build that thing, within the stipulated time. Not just that, you might be great in building these foundation model, and I fully trust the startup ecosystem that we have, but everyone's working towards it, right? That means today I might have done some cracking work, tomorrow somebody else might have done a best cracking work, and that might be still suitable for me, costing me at a cheaper price, and I want to serve that using my platform. How do I ensure that my infrastructure is ready for that, right? And then comes the last piece, which is the inferencing. I've seen a foundation model or a foundation model, and I fine-tuned it as per my requirement, as how Vishnu also talked about it, for healthcare, for retail, e-tail, for anything else, right? How do I ensure I deploy right? Context of, in the context of term which everybody understands, how many dollars or INR token that I'm able to achieve it. That's the most fundamental thing that I will exist this business. It's important to me. So,
Your mic's going on and off, I guess.
thanks. I think we have similar problems maybe. But yeah, do I have an infrastructure which is helping me to have scalability across these things and still protecting me from the future? That's my first fundamental thing that I want to have it. The second is, am I ready to adopt this infrastructure that I have it? Data centers, I think Sunil touched upon it. We are still running 70% of our data center in the country, or maybe more, on traditional computing. Can I fit in my new type of infrastructure, which is running AI factories, generating these tokens, or we call it as gold, because now these AI factories are intelligent, generating money for us, unlike the previous generation. Previous to previous talk was about databases and how these retrieval-based application, which has served us in our digital platform for decades together. But this AI generation, which is generating intelligence, is a cost center to us, making money for us, is my fundamental layer. Sunil just mentioned that pretty well, is still ready, right? So that's a fundamental question. Over and above, the question is how well my infrastructure is, which is supporting me to do my traditional AI, to help my root source language data problem solving, to building a foundation model or adopting somebody else's foundation model, and then of course helping me to scale the inferencing with the lowest cost in the INR that India is looking for. That calls for a true scale engineering at every layer, right? Starting from cooling to the compute, to how this compute is talking to each other, which is how in technical term we call it as east-west traffic, or the external traffic, which is north-south traffic, that storage and the internet world or web is talking to that particular compute and putting the queries together. And you put a chat on ChatGPT, how well the response is coming back, that throughput, and then of course the security layer which needs to come in. All these layers are very crucial when it comes to building these infrastructure. So for India, the most important thing is, first we need to build these roads, which is the foundation of these data centers. The data center needs to transform. Followed by that, being an Indian, we need to make a choice which is so pertaining to us, knowing we are resource constrained, and we will remain for a little more time, thanks to the population, resource availability, and so on and so forth, right? It needs to be a solution which was there yesterday, which is there today, and it is going to support tomorrow as well. And the software stack, which is absolutely open source.
So I'll pick up 2 points because I know, Lakshmi, you've discussed that. So you spoke about close to about 70% of our infrastructure still needs to modernize, and also the scalability. And if you see the global scale, this is at cutthroat speed, right? There are billions and billions of parameters that's being done on a daily basis. So Lakshmi, where do you see the scalability from an India aspect, or even the speed that this needs to grow at?
I think for a country like India with widely varying applications across healthcare, education, and many others, we have a huge opportunity. And for that, as the government also has put out an AI roadmap, a very well thought out roadmap, I think what we need is a heterogeneous set of hardware and software which really democratizes this across different sections and different kinds of applications. So we're talking of infrastructure, the amount of compute that you need is approximately the product of the size of the model and the number of tokens. So if you have a huge model, and let's say 1 trillion tokens, that's about how much compute you need. It is to train something like a Llama 7 billion on 1 trillion tokens requires easily 4 exaflops of compute. And that's like 32 Cerebras nodes or hundreds of GPUs, depending on which way you look at it. The other aspect of this infrastructure is the ease of scaling. So how much time you take to move a model or a solution from one node to, let's say, 64 nodes or 128 nodes. The time to solution that it takes to develop and scale across these is key to getting fast results and to actually use the latest models that come out. For example, Llama 3.1 has come out today.
Yep.
And if you need to get results on it in the next week, you need access to huge compute that can scale easily, where you don't have to worry about distribution problems. And this is one of the areas where Cerebras wafer scale solution shines. Another aspect of the infrastructure is also power and energy requirements. As all the major data center providers, including IOTA over here and several others might have seen, the power and energy requirement and optimizing those are key to also scaling this in the country. So some of the large scale or large chips actually can do with less power because you're actually connecting the cores within the chip and you're not spending power on the switches that connect the cores. So, and cooling, the effort needed to cool, for example, we do water cooling in Cerebras. So the effort needed to cool can be amortized over this infrastructure when you have larger chips where a whole model can fit into one box. So these are some of the challenges and solutions potentially to the infrastructure problem.
That's excellent. Thank you so much. Jigar, I'll bring you in terms of what are the implications that you see in the IT, BPM industry? And of course, there are many, but I would love to hear from you. What are your thoughts on that?
I think we are just starting, to be very honest. What we see on generative AI, the models which are getting launched, I think day before yesterday night, Meta has launched the next one, which is the biggest one, 540 is what they call it as. What it is translating, and that's a very valid question. They are building foundation model, but are we putting them in the action? And I'll take my in-house experience that we are undergoing currently. We call it as NVIDIA for NVIDIA, right? That means NVIDIA is able to adopt and accept NVIDIA technologies in-house at every layer, and I mean it, right? Starting from how our staff in the cafeteria is working, to the staff which is catering to us in the conference rooms, to the highest category, which is the VLSI design engineers that we have, or the software engineers, because we have too many software engineers, then of VLSI engineers. How are they adopting this technology? The fulcrum of that is, today, if you come to NVIDIA, let's say, and this is just a simplistic example, I'm trying to take it, right? The guy has been clearly instructed if, the guests are here, you're catering to the, tea, coffee, and bottles. After the meeting gets over, if somebody is putting a photo of the room, the picture itself has all the details in terms of the guy has done his job or not. I don't raise a complaint, I just upload a photo. From there onwards, to the foundation model building in-house for our VLSI work that we do, which we have come up with it as well, and to QA testing that we do, to the power engineering that we do. Today, LLMs are getting consumed at every layer that NVIDIA is doing the engineering work, in play. In fact, the best thing which is to the external face that all of you could experience as well is on an investor page of NVIDIA, because we are a listed company, there's a bot that talks about all our last 30 years data. And of course, the data which is only public, because since the time we got listed, and the analysis around that, you could query anything, right? So the investor relationship team, which used to get so much of query, is getting automated today, right? HR queries, marketing queries, these are getting transformed. Co-pilots that we all use it in our Microsoft Outlook and Office and other places, right? Same way, there are co-pilots now, which are in-house built for helping our engineers. Now the key question, what impact it is still bringing, right? Are we talking about manpower reduction? The answer is no. We are now talking about accelerating their overall journey of what and how much they could do within this stipulated time. And that's going to help them reduce a lot of error that they used to do it, right? Like post 6 o'clock, it is assumed that no guest is going to come, and thereby even if I clean that room next day, it is acceptable. But guess what? There was a guest who came in at 6, came into a room and saw that the bottles are still lying and the used cups are placed and stuff. Where do I go and where do I find? The system needs to trigger by itself. A SMS gets triggered out to the person. He understands that this room has an issue, right? From that efficiency level to what a QA testing is done today, which we have thousands of QA testing done for all our 700 libraries in SDK that we have it. All of them are getting automated and checked out. How much of that is done? How many more that can, that are left behind? And what are the procedures that have been followed essentially? This is what LLMs are transforming today.
I mean, you brought a very interesting point. At NTT, we have a very similar piece, right? We've developed our own internal LLMs for making sure that all of us are productive in the work that we do, right from the lowest to the highest level. Dr. Vishnu was talking about, there's a Suzumi, which is one of the largest Japanese LLM that's built up from NTT standpoint. So we see this happening across and great examples. So we've got about a minute left. So why don't I quickly bring in Lakshmi or any one of you to really think, give us 1 or 2 examples of what are the most exciting things that you see in this Indic language development, and what do you see as an applicability to the Indian society? Any example?
I think healthcare can transform drastically, whether in developing genomic models or in using virtual assistants for early triage in a hospital chain. In India, we have huge amounts of data which can be applied to this. The second application is in finance and banking, and I think there is no limit. There are several other examples my colleagues over here can cite.
One very nice thing that NVIDIA has tried working it out with Government of India is on the judiciary system. That information is live now. It's the most stressed segment that India has ever seen it, right? Cases are pending for so many years together. We today have RAGs being built, purpose-built for Supreme Courts, High Courts, lower courts, getting to talk and give this freedom to not just judges and the lawyers and the people who are fighting the cases internally, but also to the, alongside with the LLB students who are now the lifetime is of checking what was the summary of that the judge passed, on what basis, what were the news, what were the evidence, and which document, which paragraph. Like, as a citizen, now I know if I hit your car, road, if there's going to be a case, what's going to be the procedure, what's going to hit us, and in terms of penalty, can I do the settlement with you right? And if we both agree to it, one less and less burden. So it's at scale. I'm sure there are a lot more such cases that are popping by many startups, by many government agencies, and creating a lot of it in the local language.
All right, perfect. I think we've come to close to this, but just the closing. When you have this discussion, there are 3 things that always come up: skills, whether we have the right infrastructure, and whether we have the right manpower. At least skills was never a problem for us in India, and thanks to NASSCOM also working towards this. Based on the panel discussion that I heard, infrastructure is on its way to get sorted out, and manpower is not a challenge. So I think India is well poised to do this in a really large scale. So we've got a bright future to look at. But with that, we'll close this panel discussion. Thank you for listening to us.
Thank you.
What a stunning set of panelists. Thank you so much to each one of you for the invaluable contribution. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a big round of applause. Your expertise and insights were instrumental in exploring the complexities and possibilities in exploring the linguistic diversity through data, compute, and AI. I'm sure there's a lot of take back.